In 1936, just outside Baghdad, a discovery was pulled from the dirt that shouldn't exist. Not for another 2,000 years. It wasn't gold, and it wasn't a crown. It was a simple clay jar containing a copper cylinder and an iron rod. To the untrained eye, it's a trinket. To a physicist, it's a cell, a source of power in a world of candlelight and stone. If this device did what we think it did, it doesn't just change history, it shatters it. The year was 1936. Workers for the Iraqi state railways were leveling ground for a new line near the village of Kajut Rabu. They hit a slab of stone, a tomb. Inside, among the bones of a long-forgotten Parthian or Sassanid official, sat the Baghdad Battery. When German archaeologist Wilhelm Koenig looked at this object, he didn't see a wine vessel. He saw a galvanic cell. Think about that. We are taught that electricity began with Galvani and Volta in the late 1700s, but this jar dates back to roughly 250 BCE. The jar is 5 inches high. Inside is a copper cylinder capped with an asphalt stopper, an ancient petroleum product. Through that stopper runs an iron rod. If you fill that jar with an electrolyte, like vinegar or grape juice, it produces a current. Why would a Parthian warrior need a battery? They didn't have iPhones or light bulbs, or did they? The most prominent theory is electroplating. This is the process of using electricity to coat a base metal, like silver, with a thin layer of gold. For decades, we've found ancient jewelry that is so perfectly gilded it defies fire gilding techniques. If the Baghdad Battery was used for this, it means the Dark Ages were preceded by a golden age of chemistry that was lost to time. In the 1970s, Dr. Arne Eggebrecht filled a replica of the jar with fresh grape juice. He connected it to a voltmeter. The needle moved, 0.8 volts. It's not much, but wire 10 of these together and you have enough power to plate a statue. But maybe it wasn't about gold. Maybe it was about the body. In ancient Greece and Rome, they used electric eels to treat gout and headaches. They would literally press a live fish against a patient's head to shock the pain away. If the Parthians understood that a jar could produce that same sting, they had created the first medical device, a way to numb pain or simulate the touch of the gods. The Parthians were famous for their magi, the priest-scientists of the Zoroastrian faith. These were the men who studied the stars and the secrets of the earth. Knowledge was power, and power was kept secret. If you could make a statue glow or hum when touched, you weren't just a priest, you were a god. Imagine walking into a temple in 100 BCE and the idol of Mithras shocks you when you offer a sacrifice. That is control. That is the forbidden side of archaeology. Before we dive into the secret excavations that the mainstream won't talk about, hit the subscribe button and turn on notifications. We're uncovering the tech the history books ignored. Don't get left in the dark. If they had batteries, why didn't they have a renaissance? This is the great filter of history. Knowledge is fragile. One war, one burned library, and 1,000 years of progress vanishes. When the Sassanid Empire fell, the secret of the electric jar likely died with the priests who guarded it. We see this throughout history. The Antikythera mechanism, Damascus steel, Greek fire. We are a species with amnesia. Mainstream archaeology hates the Baghdad Battery. They argue that the iron rod was just for holding scrolls. But why seal it with asphalt? Why use a copper cylinder that shows signs of acid corrosion? The skeptics say there were no wires found, but copper is easily recycled. It would have been melted down for swords centuries ago. The jars are all that remain, the engine blocks of a car whose tires and steering wheel were stripped long ago. We like to think of history as a straight line, moving from primitive to advanced, but the Baghdad Battery suggests history is a series of peaks and valleys. We aren't the first to master the forces of nature. We're just the latest. The next time you plug in your phone, remember, 2,000 years ago, in a dusty tomb near Baghdad, Something was already humming in the dark.